The year was 2157, and humanity had spread across the stars. 12 colonies dotted the Orion arm of the Milky Way, each one a triumph of human determination and technology. The most beautiful of these was Nova Terra, a blue-green world that looked much like Earth. Commander Alex Mitchell stood on the observation deck of Outpost Horizon, a space station orbiting Nova Terra. His dark uniform fit his tall frame perfectly. The silver pins on his collar caught the light as he moved closer to the viewing window. Below him, Nova Terra shone like a jewel. 2 million people lived there now. They had farms, cities, schools, and dreams. Alex had visited the surface many times. His sister and her family lived in New Atlanta, the largest city on the planet. Beautiful view, isn't it, Commander? Alex turned to see Lieutenant Kate Phillips walking toward him. She was shorter than Alex, with short brown hair and alert, eyes that missed nothing. Never gets old, Alex replied. Hard to believe we've only been here for 15 years. Kate nodded. The terraforming teams did amazing work. They stood in comfortable silence, watching the planet turn slowly beneath them. Neither of them knew these peaceful moments were about to end forever. The alarm sounded so suddenly that Alex jumped. Red lights flashed throughout the observation deck. Unidentified vessels approaching, announced the station's computer system. Multiple signatures detected. They do not match any known human ships. Alex and Kate exchanged a quick look before running toward the command center. By the time they arrived, the large display screen showed dozens of strange ships appearing near Nova Terra. They seemed to come out of nowhere, as if space itself had torn open to let them through. Report, Alex ordered as he took his position. Sir, we count at least 30 alien vessels, replied Officer Sam Green, his fingers moving quickly over his console. They're not responding to our messages. They've taken position around the planet and... Sam's voice died as they all saw what was happening on the screen. The alien ships had opened fire on Nova Terra. Energy beams and what looked like glowing projectiles rained down on the planet's surface. Where they hit, massive explosions bloomed. They're targeting the cities, Kate said, her voice barely above a whisper. Alex grabbed the communication controls. This is Commander Mitchell of Earth Defense Force. All available ships respond. We are under attack at Nova Terra. I repeat, we are under attack. But help would not come in time. The alien weapons were like nothing humans had ever seen. Each blast created destruction on a scale that seemed impossible. New Atlanta disappeared in a flash of light, replaced by a crater that glowed with residual energy. Sir, Sam said, his face pale. We're getting reports from other colonies. They're all under attack. It's happening everywhere at once. The observation deck shook as Outpost Horizon itself came under fire. The station's shields held for now, but alarms warned that they wouldn't last long against such powerful weapons. Evacuate the station, Alex ordered. Get everyone to the escape pods and shuttles. As Kate helped coordinate the evacuation, more reports came in from across human space. Eden Prime, the furthest colony, reported that Lieutenant John Harris had managed to activate an experimental shield system moments before the aliens attacked. The shield had saved many lives but was failing fast. The other colonies had no such protection. One by one, they fell silent. Billions of human lives vanished in a single day of fire and destruction. Alex made sure everyone else had evacuated before he and Kate boarded the last shuttle. As they pulled away from the station, they saw it explode behind them. The alien ships didn't pursue the small human craft. Perhaps they were too small to bother with, or perhaps the aliens thought their message had been sent. They hit all 12 colonies at the same time, Kate said as she checked the incoming data on her tablet. How is that even possible? Alex had no answer. Their shuttle joined a stream of survivors heading for the emergency jump point. They would use the faster-than-light drive to return to Earth, carrying news of humanity's worst disaster. The journey to Earth took 3 days. 3 days of silence and grief. 3 days of wondering why the aliens had attacked and what would happen next. Earth's orbital defense platforms were on high alert when they arrived. Thousands of military ships formed a protective screen around humanity's home planet. The survivors, from the colonies were directed to safe landing zones. At Earth Defense Force headquarters in what used to be Colorado, General Frank Donovan received Alex's report. The general was a tall man with gray hair and a face that had seen many battles, though none like this. His office walls displayed maps of the colonies that now existed only in memory. 8 billion dead, Donovan said when Alex finished speaking. His voice was quiet, but firm. 8 billion human lives wiped out without warning or reason. Through the office window, Alex could see the activity in the headquarters complex. Soldiers ran between buildings. Transport ships landed and took off constantly. Earth was preparing for war. They think we're weak, Donovan continued. They think this will break us, make us surrender. What can we do, sir? Alex asked. Their technology is far beyond ours. Donovan stood up and walked to a large screen on the wall. He activated it to show the latest images from Eden Prime, where survivors continued to fight despite overwhelming odds. They don't understand what they've done, the general said. They haven't destroyed us, they've awakened us. In the command center next door, Admiral Susan Rivera was addressing the combined military leadership of Earth. Representatives from nations that had once been enemies now sat together, united by a common threat. The aliens call themselves the Krell, Rivera explained. We've managed to intercept some of their communications. They believe they've crippled us beyond recovery. She paused as new information appeared on her screen. Eden Prime is still holding out. Lieutenant Harris has organized the survivors into a resistance force. They're using the colony's mines and mountains for cover. General Donovan joined the meeting with Alex and Kate following behind. The room fell silent as he approached the central table. As of this moment, we are at war, Donovan announced. I've spoken with the President and the United Nations Security Council. All Earth resources are being directed to our defense and counterattack. He looked around the room, meeting the eyes of each person present. We will rebuild our fleet. We will develop new weapons. We will take back our colonies. Admiral Rivera stood next to him. They bombed our colonies, she said. Her words were calm, but filled with determination. Now, we show them what happens when you awaken the titans of war. The phrase spread across Earth in the days that followed. It appeared on recruitment posters and military badges. It was spray-painted on the sides of buildings and chanted at public gatherings. Factory lines that had made civilian goods were quickly changed to produce weapons and ships. Scientists worked day and night to understand the alien technology from the limited data available. Soldiers trained with new intensity. Commander Alex Mitchell received new orders a week after reaching Earth. He would lead a special forces team to Eden Prime, breaking through the alien blockade to deliver supplies and bring back information. As he prepared for the mission, Alex looked at a photo of his sister and her family. They had moved to Nova Terra for a better life, a safer life. Now they were gone, along with millions of others. They think they've won, he whispered to himself. They have no idea what's coming. 6 months passed after the Krell attack. Earth had changed. Old factories that had been closed for years now operated day and night. They no longer made cars or home goods. Now they made weapons and armor. In space, the shipyards around Earth and Mars worked without pause. The skeletons of new warships took shape in orbit. These were not the peaceful exploration vessels of the past. These ships were built for one purpose only: war. Deep under the Rocky Mountains in a place known as the Vault, Dr. Eric Sullivan hunched over his workbench. Dark circles under his eyes showed he had not slept much. A coffee cup sat forgotten at his elbow. On the wall behind him hung a photo of a woman and a young girl, both smiling. They had lived on Nova Terra. Now they were gone. Dr. Sullivan picked up a small device and examined it. It looked simple, just a metal disc with a blue light in the center. But this tiny object represented a breakthrough that might help save humanity. Dr. Sullivan? A voice came from the doorway. The president is here for the inspection. Eric looked up, surprised. He had forgotten about the visit. He quickly put on his lab coat and tried to smooth his messy hair. President Gloria Martinez entered the lab with her security team. She was a tall woman with streaks of gray in her dark hair. Before becoming president, she had been a general. She understood war. "Dr. Sullivan," she said, extending her hand. "I've heard promising things about Project Prometheus." Eric shook her hand. "Thank you for coming, Madam President. We've made significant progress." He led her through the vast underground complex. Hundreds of scientists and engineers worked in different sections. Each area focused on a different piece of technology that might help even the odds against the Krell. Project Prometheus isn't just about weapons, Eric explained as they walked. It's about finding new ways to fight. The Krell have better ships and guns, but they've never faced human creativity. They stopped at the first demonstration area. A soldier stood wearing what looked like a metal frame over his uniform. "This is the Titan armor," Eric said. "When activated, it multiplies the wearer's strength by 10 times. The soldier pressed a button on his wrist. The frame hummed to life, glowing blue along its joints. He walked to a stack of metal blocks, each weighing over 500 pounds. With apparent ease, he lifted the entire stack. President Martinez nodded, impressed. They moved to the next area, where pilots sat in simulation chairs with strange helmets, covering their heads. "Neural interfaces," Eric explained. "They allow pilots to control spacecraft with their thoughts. Reaction time is cut by 80%. The tour continued through various labs. They saw nanite swarms that could eat through Krell metal, shields that could absorb energy weapons, and communication devices that worked across vast distances instantly. The final stop was Eric's personal lab. Here, he showed the president his most important work, the Lazarus Protocol. "This," he said, holding up the small disk he had been examining earlier, "might be our greatest advantage." He explained how the device used nanotechnology to repair injured soldiers on the battlefield. Wounds that would normally be fatal could be healed in minutes. "How soon can these technologies be deployed?" President Martinez asked. "The first batches of Titan armor and neural interfaces are being sent to our troops next week," Eric replied. "The Lazarus Protocol needs more testing, but it should be ready within a month." The president placed her hand on Eric's shoulder. "Your wife and daughter would be proud." Eric nodded, not trusting himself to speak. While Earth prepared, the survivors on Eden Prime fought on. Colonel Paul Wright, who had been visiting the colony when the attack happened, had organized the remaining colonists and soldiers into a resistance force. Eden Prime was a rugged world with tall mountains and deep valleys. The human survivors used this terrain to their advantage, hiding in caves and attacking Krell patrols before disappearing again. In a hidden base beneath a mountain, Colonel Wright studied a map with his officers. Red marks showed Krell positions. Blue marks showed human strongholds. "The Krell are bringing in more troops," Wright said, pointing to a valley where alien ships had landed. "They're determined to finish what they started." Lieutenant John Harris, whose quick action had saved many lives during the initial attack, pointed to another area on the map. "Our scouts report the Krell are building some kind of communication tower here. If we could capture it intact, we might learn more about their plans." Wright considered this. "It's risky, but worth trying. Plan a raid for tomorrow night." That night, a small supply ship from Earth managed to break through the Krell blockade. It landed at the hidden base, bringing weapons, medicine, and news from home. Commander Alex Mitchell stepped out of the ship. He looked different now, harder, more determined. "Colonel Wright," he said, saluting. "Earth sent me to deliver these and to bring back information about Krell weaknesses." He handed over a crate. Inside were 10 sets of Titan armor and several of the new weapons developed at the vault. "This is just the beginning," Alex explained. "Earth is building a fleet. The first ships will launch next month. At the Armstrong shipyards orbiting Earth's moon, that fleet was taking shape. 50 warships, larger and more powerful than anything humans had built before, were in the final stages of construction. On the bridge of the flagship, Lieutenant Kate Phillips, now promoted to Admiral, inspected her command center. The neural interface system had been installed, allowing her crew to control the ship's systems with unprecedented speed and precision. "Admiral," a young officer reported, All systems are operational. The Ghost Drive is functioning at 100%. The Ghost Drive was one of Dr. Sullivan's most impressive achievements. It bent light around the ship, making it nearly invisible to Krell sensors. Good, Kate replied. And the weapons? Kinetic cannons and energy lances are online. The nanite missiles are loaded and ready. Kate walked to the viewing window and looked out at the other ships. They were sleek and dark, built for speed and stealth rather than show. Each one carried enough firepower to destroy a small moon. The Krell believe they know us, she said quietly. They think they've seen our full measure, but they've only seen how we live. Now they'll see how we fight. On Earth and cities around the world, people watched news reports about the upcoming military launch. Many had lost family members in the colony attacks. All had lost their sense of safety. In training fields across the planet, soldiers prepared for war. They trained with the new Titan armor and weapons. They studied what little was known about Krell tactics and technology. General Frank Donovan stood before the United Nations Security Council. Behind him, a screen showed images of the devastated colonies. In 1 month, he told the assembled leaders, we launch Operation Retribution. The first target will be the Krell base in the Proxima Centauri system. A council member raised his hand. And if we fail, Donovan's face showed no doubt. We won't fail. The Krell awakened something they don't understand. They awakened humanity's full potential. He turned back to the screen, which now showed the new fleet in orbit. They awakened the Titans of War. 1 year after the attack on the colonies, humanity was ready to strike back. Operation Retribution began in the early hours of Earth Standard Time. The plan was both simple and daring. First, a small group of ships attacked a Krell mining outpost in the Tau Ceti system. This was meant to draw Krell attention and forces away from their main base at Proxima Centauri. The Krell responded as expected. They sent 20 warships to defend the mining outpost. This left their forward base with only half its normal protection. Admiral Kate Phillips commanded the main human attack fleet from her flagship. 50 warships, all equipped with the new Ghost Drive, gathered at the jump point near Earth. All ships activate Ghost Drives, Kate ordered. One by one, the human vessels shimmered and seemed to fade from view. They weren't completely invisible, but they would be very difficult for Krell sensors to detect. Jump in 3, 2, 1. The fleet entered fold space, that strange dimension that allowed faster-than-light travel. The journey to Proxima Centauri would take only minutes. On board the lead assault transport, Major Ryan Clark checked his Titan armor one last time. He was a stocky man with a shaved head and a scar running down his left cheek. Around him, 100 soldiers did the same, each one wearing the powered armor that would give them a fighting chance against the physically stronger Krell. Remember your training, Clark told his troops. Move fast, stay in pairs, and don't get cornered. The Krell are 8 feet tall and have 4 arms, but they're slow and predictable. The fleet exited fold space directly above the Krell base. The enemy was caught completely by surprise. Before they could raise their shields, the human ships opened fire. New weapons developed by Dr. Sullivan's team proved devastatingly effective. Kinetic cannons smashed through Krell hull armor. Energy lances cut alien ships in half. Nanite missiles burrowed into enemy vessels and ate them from the inside out. Launch ground forces. Admiral Phillips commanded once the orbital defenses had been neutralized. Transport ships descended toward the Krell base. Point defense cannons on the surface fired at them, but most of the transports got through. Major Clark's ship landed hard on the edge of the Krell compound. The ramp dropped, and he led his soldiers out into their first ground battle with the aliens. The Krell were as tall and strong as intelligence reports had indicated. Their gray-green skin looked like armor, and each of their 4 arms carried a different weapon, but they moved with a slowness that suggested they were used to overwhelming enemies with size and strength, rather than speed. The human soldiers in their Titan armor moved like lightning in comparison. They darted between buildings, firing precision, shots at vital points on the Krell bodies. Clark led a team toward the main control center. They needed to capture it intact to gain valuable intelligence about Krell forces and plans. Left flank, cover fire, Clark shouted as a group of Krell emerged from a doorway. His soldiers responded instantly, laying down suppressing fire while Clark and another team circled around behind the aliens. The neural interfaces in their helmets allowed them to coordinate. With barely a word spoken, the battle was going well until a Krell heavy weapon team set up on a rooftop. They fired a plasma cannon that caught Clark's squad in the open. 3 soldiers went down immediately. Clark felt something hit him in the chest. He looked down to see a smoking hole in his armor. Pain flared through his body, and he fell to his knees. The medic reached him seconds later. She slapped a small disc onto his chest, a Lazarus device. Clark felt a cold sensation spreading from the disc, numbing the pain. Then came a strange tingling as the nanites in the device began repairing his damaged tissues. 2 minutes later, Clark was back on his feet. The wound wasn't completely healed, but it was no longer life-threatening. He rejoined the fight, much to the shock of the Krell who had thought him dead. The battle for the control center lasted another hour. In the end, human forces secured the entire base at a cost of 17 dead and 43 wounded. The Krell lost their entire garrison of over 300 warriors. As engineers downloaded data from Krell computers, Clark found a communication console that was still working. "Admiral Phillips," he reported, "the base is secure. We've captured intact Krell ships and technology." On her flagship, Kate allowed herself a small smile. "Well done, Major. Hold position. Science teams are on their way down." The victory at Proxima Centauri changed everything. For the first time, humans had captured working examples of Krell technology, especially their advanced fold space drives and weapons. Dr. Sullivan led the team that studied the alien systems. He worked day and night, breaking down and rebuilding Krell devices to understand how they functioned. "Their technology isn't actually that far ahead of ours," he explained to General Donovan during a briefing. "They've just been developing it longer. Their fold space drives work on the same principles we've been exploring, just with more refinement." "How long until we can adapt their technology for our own use?" Donovan asked. "We already have," Sullivan replied with pride. "The first hybrid human Krell ships will be ready for testing next month." As promised, the science team began reverse engineering Krell fold space drives, weapons, and shields. Each breakthrough was immediately sent to factories on Earth for production. The Krell did not take their defeat lightly. They launched a counterattack on human positions, but this time they faced a prepared enemy. The battles were fierce, but with each engagement, humans learned more about Krell tactics and weaknesses. The aliens fought with rigid discipline and followed preset battle plans. When things didn't go according to plan, they struggled to adapt. Humans, on the other hand, were masters of improvisation and unconventional thinking. On Eden Prime, Colonel Wright's resistance fighters received news of the victory at Proxima Centauri. The information came with a shipment of new weapons and a bold plan. "We're going to hit the main Krell command post," Wright told his officers. "Earth forces will create a distraction in orbit while we strike from the ground." Lieutenant Harris studied the plan. "This is risky, but it could work. If we take out their command structure, the rest of their forces on Eden Prime will be disorganized." 2 days later, human ships appeared in the sky above Eden Prime. The Krell commanders ordered all their forces to defend against what they thought was a full-scale invasion. While the Krell looked up, Colonel Wright's fighters emerged from their mountain hideouts. Using a mix of Titan armor, conventional weapons, and captured Krell technology, they attacked the enemy command post from 3 directions at once. The fighting was brutal. Many humans fell, but they kept pushing forward. Lieutenant Harris led the final assault on the command bunker itself. He was wounded twice but refused to stop until the Krell commander was dead and the bunker secured. By nightfall, the resistance had achieved what had seemed impossible. Eden Prime was free of Krell control. The remaining alien forces, cut off from leadership and surrendered or fled to their ships. When news of Eden Prime's liberation reached Earth, celebrations erupted around the world. People danced in streets that had been somber for a year. For the first time since the attack, there was real hope. President Martinez addressed the United Nations, her face solemn despite the victory. "Today marks a beginning, not an end," she said. We have shown the Krell and ourselves that humanity will not go quietly into the night, but the road ahead remains long and difficult. She paused, looking out at the representatives of Earth's nations. The Krell still hold most of our colonies. Billions of our people are still lost. Our war has just begun. Across human space, the message was the same. One victory was not enough. The titans of war had awakened, and they would not rest until all of humanity was safe again. The war expanded across the stars. 3 years had passed since humanity's first victory at Proxima Centauri. Now battles raged on multiple fronts as Admiral Phillips led the main fleet in a campaign to reclaim the colonies. General Donovan coordinated smaller strike teams that hit Krell supply lines and communications. The human ships had changed. They were no longer purely human technology. After studying captured Krell vessels, Dr. Sullivan's team had created hybrid ships that combined the best of both species' engineering. In his lab at the vault, Dr. Sullivan worked with a new team member, Dr. Lisa Bennett. She was a xenolinguist, an expert in alien languages and communication. For months she had studied Krell transmissions captured during battles. "I think I've made a breakthrough," she told Sullivan one morning. "I've identified patterns in their language. With more data, we might be able to understand them." Sullivan looked up from his workbench where he was examining a Krell energy weapon. "If we could understand them, we might learn why they attacked us." Dr. Bennett nodded. "That's what I'm hoping for." Their chance came sooner than expected. A raid on a Krell communication hub yielded a massive database of transmissions and records. Dr. Bennett worked day and night with her team to decode the information. "It's incredible," she said when she finally presented her findings to President Martinez and military leaders. "The Krell didn't attack us because they wanted our resources or territory." She displayed images of Krell historical records on the screen. "They attacked us because they were afraid." The room fell silent as she explained. For thousands of years, the Krell had followed the same pattern. Whenever they discovered another spacefaring species, they attacked first and without warning. Their entire culture was built around the belief that all other intelligent life would eventually become competitors and threats. They saw our rapid expansion, the speed with which we established colonies, and it triggered their defensive instincts, Bennett concluded. They genuinely believed they were protecting themselves from a future threat. President Martinez considered this information. Could this lead to peace negotiations? "Possibly," Bennett replied. "But it won't be easy. This belief is deeply ingrained in their society." With the president's approval, Dr. Bennett prepared a message in the Krell language. It proposed a meeting between human and Krell representatives to discuss an end to hostilities. The response came 3 weeks later. The Krell agreed to send representatives to a neutral location, an uninhabited planet in a star system between human and Krell space. Admiral Phillips provided security for the human delegation, which included Dr. Bennett and several diplomats. Her ships remained in orbit, weapons ready, as the diplomats descended to the surface. The meeting started well. Dr. Bennett's understanding of the Krell language allowed for basic communication. The human delegates explained that they had no intention of threatening the Krell, that peaceful coexistence was possible. Some of the Krell seemed receptive. But during a break in the talks, hardline Krell military officers assassinated their own diplomatic team rather than allow peace discussions to continue. They would rather die than change their beliefs, Dr. Bennett reported sadly when she returned to Earth. The war intensified after the failed peace attempt. The Krell, now fighting for their own survival, deployed their most destructive weapons, planet-killer missiles that could render a world uninhabitable. Earth itself became a target. Krell forces launched a massive attack, including 3 planet-killer missiles aimed at humanity's homeworld. Defense systems destroyed 2 of the missiles, but the third got through. It was headed directly for North America, when Major Ryan Clark's Special Forces team deployed on a stealth ship intercepted it. Clark, now with numerous battle scars and a cybernetic left arm, led his team in a desperate boarding action. They fought their way to the missile's control systems and managed to disable it just minutes before impact. The missile crashed harmlessly into the ocean. Clark was awarded Earth's highest military honor for this action. During the ceremony, he spoke briefly to the assembled crowd. "We fight not just for revenge," he said, "but for the right to exist. The Krell deny us that right. We will never surrender it." The tide of war turned definitively when Admiral Phillips led a daring raid against the Krell shipyards at Epsilon, Indy. Using improved fold space technology, human forces appeared directly within the Krell defensive perimeter. The battle lasted 12 hours. Human ships took heavy damage, but the Krell shipyards were destroyed, and key manufacturing facilities were captured intact. These facilities accelerated production of human warships. New vessels rolled out weekly, each one more advanced than the last. They incorporated so much Krell technology that some began to wonder if humans were becoming more like their enemy. Dr. Sullivan addressed these concerns during a press conference. "We're using their technology, yes, but we're doing it our way. A Krell would never think to use a fold space drive the way we do, or combine energy weapons with kinetic ones. We're creating something new." 7 years into the war, humans had pushed the Krell back to their core systems. What had started as a desperate fight for survival had become a grinding war of attrition. On Eden Prime, now a major human military base, Colonel Wright, who had refused promotion to general, trained new recruits. The colony had been rebuilt, with cities rising from the ruins of those destroyed in the initial attack. "The Krell thought they could break us with one blow," he told a group of young soldiers. "They didn't understand that humans grow stronger when broken." One of the recruits raised her hand. "Sir, is it true that we've started finding other alien species?" Wright nodded. "Yes. As we've pushed into former Krell territory, we've discovered 3 other intelligent species. All were at pre-spaceflight stages of development. All were being monitored by the Krell, probably for eventual elimination." "And now?" the recruit asked. "Now they're under our protection," Wright replied. "We've established contact and offered them technology and knowledge at a pace they can handle. This discovery, that the Krell had a history of destroying or preventing the rise of other intelligent life, hardened humanity's resolve. The war was no longer just about human survival. It had become about breaking the cycle of extinction the Krell had perpetuated for millennia." In a secret facility orbiting Jupiter, Dr. Sullivan and his team developed the most ambitious project yet, a ship unlike any ever built. It combined the most advanced human innovations with the best captured Krell technology. "The Peacemaker," Sullivan said as he showed Admiral Phillips the designs. "Fast enough to outrun any Krell vessel, armed heavily enough to take on their largest dreadnoughts, and with a special addition." He pointed to a section of the plans labeled Babel System. Dr. Bennett's work on Krell language and psychology has led to this. It's a communication system designed to bypass their cultural conditioning to speak to them in a way they might actually hear. Admiral Phillips studied the plans. "You still hope for peace?" "I hope for an end to the fighting that doesn't require the extinction of either species," Sullivan replied. "Don't you?" Phillips thought of all the battles she had fought, all the people she had lost. "I want justice for what they did to our colonies. But yes, if there's a way to end this without more death, I would take it." As the Peacemaker neared completion, intelligence reports indicated the Krell were gathering their remaining forces for one final desperate attack. After nearly a decade of war, the final battle was approaching. 10 years had passed since the Krell attacked human colonies. Now the war entered its final phase. Human forces pushed deep into Krell territory, approaching their homeworld. Dominar Admiral Kate Phillips stood on the bridge of the Peacemaker, the most advanced ship ever built by human hands. Through the viewing window, she could see hundreds of human ships gathered for the final assault. Some were entirely human design. Others were hybrid vessels combining human innovation with Krell technology. "All ships report ready, Admiral," said her second-in-command. Kate nodded. "Begin the operation." The fleet moved forward in perfect formation. Their target was the Krell homeworld, protected by layers of defenses and hundreds of warships. Down. In the ship's science section, Dr. Lisa Bennett made final adjustments to the Babel system, the advanced communication technology that might allow meaningful dialogue with the Krell. Next to her stood Dr. Eric Sullivan, whose work had helped turn the tide of war. "Do you think they'll listen?" Bennett asked quietly. Sullivan shook his head. "I don't know, but we have to try." The battle began as the human fleet entered Krell space. Enemy ships rushed to meet them, firing their most powerful weapons. But the human vessels were faster and more maneuverable. Their shields, improved versions of Krell designs, held against the assault. The Peacemaker led the attack, its advanced weapons cutting through Krell defenses. Kate directed the battle with calm precision. After a decade of war, she had become a legend among both humans and Krell. "Breach in their outer defenses," reported the tactical officer. "Our main force can move through." As planned, the fleet split into 3 groups. 2 would engage the Krell fleet, while the third, led by the Peacemaker, would push through to Dominar itself. On the surface of Dominar, in the Krell High Command Center, the Supreme Commander watched the battle with growing alarm. The humans were winning. Despite all predictions, they had not only survived the initial attack on their colonies, but had grown stronger. "Activate the final defense," the Supreme Commander ordered. His subordinate hesitated. "But, sir, the Doomsday weapon will destroy Dominar itself if activated. Better our world dies than falls to human hands." Colonel Ryan Clark, now leading an elite ground assault team, received new intelligence as his transport approached Dominar. "The Krell have activated some kind of doomsday device," he told his soldiers. "Our mission has changed. We need to find and disable it before it destroys the planet." His team, equipped with the most advanced Titan armor ever created, landed under heavy fire. The Krell fought desperately to defend their homeworld, showing a ferocity not seen before. Clark led his soldiers through the alien city toward the coordinates of the doomsday device. The buildings were tall and curved, made of a strange green-black material. Everything was sized for the larger Krell, making the humans feel small despite their armor. "Resistance ahead," warned Clark's second-in-command. "Looks like elite guards." The Krell elite guards were larger than normal Krell, with 6 arms instead of 4 and thicker natural armor. They fought with a skill that surprised the human soldiers. Clark's team pushed forward but took heavy losses. Of the 30 soldiers who had landed, only 12 remained when they reached the control center for the doomsday device. Inside, they found something unexpected. A group of Krell civilians and a few military officers were trying to shut down the device against the orders of their leadership. "They're trying to help," Clark realized. He ordered his team not to fire. Dr. Bennett, monitoring the situation from the Peacemaker, spoke through Clark's communication system. "Ask them why they're doing this. I'll translate." Clark approached the Krell, who watched the humans with a mixture of fear and hope. Through Bennett's translation, he learned that a growing number of Krell had begun to question their society's policy of preemptive extinction. The decades of war with humans had caused some to reconsider their most fundamental beliefs. "We have 3 minutes before the device activates fully," explained the lead Krell, a scientist. "But we cannot override the final codes." Clark relayed this to the Peacemaker. Dr. Sullivan joined the communication. "We need to merge our systems with theirs. Colonel, insert this data spike into their main console." Clark did as instructed, plugging a small device into the alien computer. Sullivan's team worked with the Krell scientists, racing to break the final security measures. With seconds remaining, they succeeded. The doomsday device powered down. Dominar was saved. In orbit, the battle had turned decisively in humanity's favor. The Krell fleet, learning that their supreme commander had been willing to destroy their homeworld, began to stand down. 3 days later, the remaining Krell leadership surrendered. The war that had begun with a surprise attack on human colonies ended with humans standing victorious over the Krell homeworld. The surrender terms, dictated by a coalition of human military and civilian leaders, were more merciful than many expected. The Krell would retain control over their homeworld and core systems, but would dismantle their offensive military capabilities and accept human oversight for 50 years. 1 month after the surrender, President Gloria Martinez addressed the first Joint Human-Krell Council on Dominar. The room was designed to accommodate both species, with special seating for the larger Krell. "We did not fight this war to replace one tyranny with another," Martinez said. Her words were translated for the Krell delegates. "We fought to ensure that no species would ever again presume to decide whether another deserves to exist." The reconstruction of human colonies began immediately. Nova Terra, the first to fall in the initial attack, became the site of the first Joint Human-Krell Scientific Outpost. Dr. Sullivan led a team of scientists from both species, working to adapt military technologies for peaceful purposes. Eden Prime, the colony that had never fully fallen, became the headquarters of the new Interstellar Defense Force. Admiral Phillips was named its first commander. The IDF would protect not just human interests but serve as a peacekeeping force throughout known space. Colonel Clark, who declined further promotion, chose to lead the first exploratory mission beyond the borders of known space. Before departing, he visited the memorial on Nova Terra, where the names of 8 billion human victims were preserved. There, he met a young Krell diplomat, one of the moderates who had helped end the war. "Your people fought unlike any the Krell had ever faced," the diplomat said. "Why continue when victory seemed impossible?" Clark thought about the question. "Because that's what humans do. We adapt. We survive." He looked up at the stars, now filled with new possibilities. "And when someone tries to exterminate us, they awaken the titans of war." As human ships once again traveled between the stars, they carried the lessons of both defeat and victory. Humanity remained vigilant with Prometheus technologies now integrated into civilian life as well as military applications. But they also carried a new wisdom, understanding that fear, left unchecked, could make titans of war out of any species. The war had cost billions of lives and countless worlds, but its end marked not just humanity's survival, but its evolution into something stronger and perhaps wiser than before. Beyond the boundaries of former Krell space, other civilizations watched and waited, reassessing their understanding of the species that had faced extinction and emerged victorious. Humanity had proven itself, and the stars would never be the same.